Hello everyone, I'm Piers Morgan, and I have to tell you that what I'm about to lay out today is something I honestly never expected to be discussing in all my years of journalism. In just the past few hours, news has broken that has rocked Buckingham Palace to its core, sent tremors through every hallway of power in Westminster, and left royal courts across Europe stunned. King Charles and Prince William have reached a conclusion that almost nobody thought they would ever reach. People close to the situation assured me only a short time ago that this was simply unthinkable. They have now formally begun the process to remove Meghan Markle's royal title. And the explanation behind this move is far more troubling, far more intentional, and far more carefully planned than most people could possibly have guessed. What set this in motion, what the paperwork actually discloses, and what the evidence itself demonstrates completely upends everything we believed we understood about the past 5 years. Before I continue, I need you to hit subscribe right now. The information I'm sharing isn't being laid out this plainly anywhere else, and events are developing so quickly that most news organizations are struggling to keep pace. Click that button so you don't miss a single update as this story continues to unfold. Let me be completely straightforward about what we're looking at. This isn't rumor, it isn't hearsay from unnamed insiders, and it isn't vague palace gossip. What sits in front of me are genuine, sealed official records and financial statements that came to light through a proper, authorized inquiry, and their contents are genuinely startling. We're talking about a concealed bank account. Not some overlooked savings pot left over from her television career, not an old everyday account from before she married into the family. This was a carefully hidden offshore account that remained in active use even while she carried out official royal responsibilities. The transactions flowing through that account and the overall pattern they expose go well beyond ordinary careless money handling or a simple lapse in judgment. The probe into this account actually started 8 months back. That matters. For most of the past year, quietly and with great care, specialist forensic accountants have been digging through financial trails that Meghan clearly assumed would stay buried forever. The account was set up in the Cayman Islands. Stop and consider that for a moment. Choosing to open an account in one of the planet's most secretive banking havens was not accidental. It had nothing to do with ease of use, currency convenience, or basic tax planning. The whole point was secrecy. The structure was built so that tracing the money would be extremely difficult, auditing it would be nearly impossible, and discovering its existence would be unlikely. The papers I've examined indicate the account was created in November 2019. Only a few months after Archie's birth, and only a few months after Meghan and Harry first started seriously talking about reducing their royal commitments. That timing alone stands out, but what happened inside the account is even more striking. From November 2019 through March 2020, more than 40 separate deposits landed in that account, 40 distinct transfers, and these were not trivial sums, not casual personal savings or small allowances. In just those 4 months, the total amount that passed through exceeded to £11 million. Where did all that money originate? That was the exact question King Charles wanted answered. That was the exact question Prince William insisted on having clarified. And when explanations finally arrived, they were far from convincing. In fact, they were inconsistent, evasive, and in several instances probably untrue. I've seen internal palace correspondence, formal messages between high-ranking household staff. When the royal accounting team first raised concerns about irregular financial activity, Meghan was asked directly about any offshore accounts. In writing, she stated she had no knowledge of any such thing. Let me repeat that, she denied any knowledge. This was an official reply sent to the King's private secretary, made in a situation where she was fully aware she had an obligation to tell the truth. Things only became more serious from there. Forensic specialists tracked the source of several of those deposits, and the findings deepened the unease considerably. At minimum, 14 of the incoming payments originated not from private individuals, not from relatives or friends, but from corporate entities, companies registered in Dubai, Singapore, and Luxembourg. Here is the precise wording from the investigative summary I reviewed. Multiple wire transfers originating from business entities with unclear ownership structures and no disclosed relationship to the Duchess of Sussex. Consider what that actually means. Multiple transfers from opaque business entities arrived while she was still performing active royal duties, while she was still acting as a representative of the Crown, while she was still leveraging her title and position on the international stage. What were these payments compensating? What work was being done? What arrangements had been agreed upon? What exactly was she supplying in return for those millions? Those aren't hypothetical questions. Those are the precise issues Charles and William directed their legal teams to investigate. After months of work, After coordinating with banking regulators across borders, the lawyers still could not obtain straightforward answers. The corporate setups had been intentionally made impossible to penetrate. Ownership was buried beneath multiple layers of shell entities. Then came the revelation nobody saw coming. When investigators finally secured complete transaction histories through formal international banking agreements, they learned the money wasn't only flowing in, substantial amounts were flowing out on a regular basis. And some of those outgoing payments went to people whose backgrounds raised serious red flags. I'm not speculating, I'm describing what the records show. One recipient was a Los Angeles-based media consultant known to have ties to certain tabloid publications. Another was a public relations outfit that openly markets itself as providing reputation management and strategic narrative placement. A third payment went to a digital marketing firm specializing in social media influence operations and online perception shaping. Pause for a second and let that register. While Meghan and Harry were publicly describing themselves as victims of relentless media intrusion, while they were taking legal action against newspapers, while they were saying the press was ruining their lives and endangering their safety, Meghan maintained ongoing financial ties to people and companies whose entire livelihood depends on planting stories, crafting public narratives and steering media coverage. This wasn't a one-off or two-off situation. Over more than a year, the payments to those media-related entities added up to just over £43 million. £3 million paid to media operatives at the same time she and Harry were positioning themselves as helpless targets of the press. But this is where the story moves from deeply concerning to outright explosive. Among the materials uncovered during the inquiry were private, encrypted messages recovered from a device Meghan used while living at Kensington Palace. Those messages were legally obtained as part of the financial probe. What they show is a degree of deliberate coordination and forward planning that caught everyone in the palace off guard. In one January 2020 exchange, only weeks before the Sussexes publicly signaled they would step away, Meghan wrote about securing the financial infrastructure for post-royal independence. Let me repeat her exact phrase: securing the financial infrastructure. This was not an impulsive move. It was not a response to mounting press pressure or family friction. This was premeditated. This was strategic. This was prepared well ahead of time. And the secret account formed a central piece of that strategy. In that same conversation thread, she spoke of establishing clean separation of assets and stressed the need to maintain parallel financial systems that cannot be audited by family offices. Read those words again. Cannot be audited by family offices. She understood precisely what she was arranging. She was fully aware that the royal household maintains financial oversight. She knew every working royal's money is subject to review and transparency rules. And she intentionally built a separate system to avoid that scrutiny entirely. This has nothing to do with wanting privacy or personal freedom. This is about concealment. This is about purposely keeping financial dealings out of sight because she knew they would never be sanctioned if they came to light. The inquiry also brought other discoveries to the surface. Travel records, personal trips that never appeared in any official court circular or public schedule. The hidden account covered the costs of at least 6 separate journeys that were never declared. Private charter flights were arranged, accommodations were booked via shell entities, and expenses were charged to cards tied to the secret account. The destinations are telling: 3 visits to Los Angeles before the official relocation, 2 to New York, and 1 to the south of France. All of this happened while she remained a serving duchess. All of it occurred while she was still receiving public money for her royal work. All of it took place while she was still expected to follow the standards and protocols of royal service. The total cost of those unreported trips came to more than the 800,000. Let that figure sink in. £800,000 spent on private, undisclosed travel while she resided in a palace free of rent, while she benefited from taxpayer-provided security, while she enjoyed every advantage that royal status provided. None of those trips were declared. None received proper approval. None went through official channels. What makes this especially serious is Harry's response when questioned about these journeys during the investigation. Under oath in formal testimony to royal legal advisors, he stated he had no awareness of any of it, no knowledge of the offshore account, no knowledge of the payments to media-related figures, no knowledge of the secret travel. So either he is being truthful, meaning his wife carried out elaborate financial arrangements entirely behind his back and repeatedly missold him, or he is not being truthful, which opens an entirely different set of troubling possibilities about his own role. Either way, what emerges is a picture of deep dysfunction and pervasive dishonesty. The records also make clear that even after the Sussexes relocated to California, the account remained active. Deposits kept arriving, payments kept leaving, And here is the most astonishing detail during that period. Some of the incoming money came from production companies and entertainment businesses, sums that closely match publicly announced joint projects involving both Harry and Meghan. Yet the funds did not flow into shared accounts. They were not handled openly as partnership earnings. Instead, they were directed exclusively into Meghan's concealed account. Money that should have been divided or jointly overseen was quietly rerouted. I want to be extremely careful and clear here. When the Netflix agreement was made public, it was presented as a joint effort. Harry and Meghan, the Sussexes, building their future together as partners. But according to these financial records, the reality was very different. A large share of the upfront payments, money that should have been split or managed as a team, was instead diverted into an account that apparently Harry did not even know existed. We're talking about millions of pounds that he could not access and of which he had no awareness. His wife was redirecting funds from their shared ventures into a secret account he knew nothing about. The question King Charles posed, the question Prince William pressed, the question any fair-minded person would raise is straightforward. If all of this was legitimate and above board, why the secrecy? Why the offshore arrangements? Why the encrypted messages? Why the careful steps to keep everything concealed from the very family she said she trusted? Why secretly pay media operatives if you are genuinely suffering at the hands of the media? Why conceal travel if you are simply trying to live privately? And that is exactly why the palace concluded that removing her title was not merely reasonable, but essential. This decision is not about punishing someone for seeking financial freedom. It is not about trying to dictate personal decisions or lifestyle choices. It is about conduct that simply cannot coexist with holding a royal title. When you carry the rank of Duchess, when you trade on that title in professional dealings, when you profit from the position, you are held to a clear standard. You stand for the crown. You stand for centuries of tradition and expectation. Part of that expectation is openness, integrity, and following established guidelines that exist for sound reasons. Meghan didn't merely stretch those guidelines. She methodically constructed a way around them. She built an entirely separate financial world designed to escape any form of oversight. She used encrypted channels specifically to prevent anyone from discovering her actions. And she did all of this while still accepting every benefit and privilege that came with royal status. That is not independence. That is taking advantage. That is deception on a serious scale. I choose that word carefully. But when someone conceals $11 million, when someone hides business connections while still representing the crown, when someone gives false answers in official correspondence about their finances, that conduct fits the definition of fraud. The choice to remove her title was not taken lightly. People who were directly involved in the conversations have told me that King Charles wrestled with the decision for weeks. He fully grasps what it will unleash: more accusations of institutional harshness, more stories of family fracture, more media frenzy. But he also recognizes that ignoring this behavior, tolerating this level of deceit, and allowing someone who acted this way to retain a royal title would inflict lasting harm on the monarchy he has spent his life preparing to lead and now heads. Prince William's view was simpler and firmer. Once he saw the evidence, he was clear the title must be taken away. There is no compromise here, no middle path, no way to look past what was done. You cannot allow someone who has shown this degree of dishonesty, this degree of premeditation, and this degree of intentional concealment to continue representing the royal family. Having examined the documents myself, having read the messages, and having considered the full picture, I find it difficult to disagree with that reasoning. The official process started 3 days ago. Legal documents were submitted to the Privy Council. A formal proposal was put forward to remove Meghan's title of Duchess of Sussex and to prohibit her from using any royal designation or style going forward. The King gave his approval to that proposal yesterday afternoon during a private discussion with his most senior advisors. Prince William formally added his agreement this morning. At this point, the machinery is turning. Within a matter of weeks, possibly only days, Meghan Markle will no longer hold the title of Duchess. She will have no remaining official link to the British royal family, and she will face serious questions about the origin of those funds and where they ultimately went. I want to emphasize one thing clearly. This has nothing to do with Meghan being American. It has nothing to do with her background, her race, or any of the storylines that will surely be promoted in the days and weeks ahead. This is about actions. This is about decisions. This is about a consistent pattern of concealment that cannot be reconciled with the responsibilities of royal life. If any other person, any other member of the family, had engaged in the same behavior, the outcome would be the same. In all likelihood, it would have been even stricter because other royals do not have the same protective media ecosystem or prepared narratives waiting to be activated. What these records actually show is someone who treated her royal title not as a duty to be carried out, but as a tool to be used. A tool for accumulating wealth, forging useful connections, and constructing a private financial structure, all while publicly presenting herself as a victim and insisting all she ever wanted was a peaceful, private existence away from attention. But peaceful, private lives do not involve the 11 million flowing through concealed offshore accounts. Peaceful private lives do not require encrypted discussions about setting up untraceable financial systems. Peaceful, private lives do not include secret journeys and hidden business arrangements. Peaceful, private lives do not involve channeling millions of pounds to media professionals while simultaneously claiming to be tormented by the media. And here is the broader consequence that has not yet received enough attention. If Meghan was capable of this level of financial concealment, what else might she have concealed? Which other statements we accepted as true might actually be false? The palace has begun a thorough re-examination of everything, every public remark, every interview assertion, every claim made during the opera conversation, every allegation in documentaries, every detail in Harry's book. When someone goes to such lengths to hide money from their own spouse and their own family, it becomes entirely reasonable to wonder whether they have been honest about anything else. This represents a defining moment for the monarchy. This is the point where the institution finally said, no more deception, no more manipulation, no more exploiting a position of privilege for private gain while insisting you are the one being wronged. King Charles and Prince William have taken a painful but necessary step. They knew it would provoke criticism. They knew it would be portrayed as heartless. They chose to do it anyway because the monarchy itself matters more than any individual's comfort, and because truth matters more than shielding reputations or dodging difficult headlines. The truth is this: while she served as a working royal, Meghan Markle carried out systematic financial concealment. She hid for 11 million. She kept business ties to media operatives out of sight. She provided false information in official correspondence. She set up offshore mechanisms specifically intended to avoid scrutiny. She funded undisclosed personal travel while receiving public support. And when the investigation finally exposed the facts, when the documents finally emerged, when the full reality could no longer be avoided, the only proper course was to remove her title. Not because she chose to walk away. She had already done that. But because the way she behaved while she was still part of the family was fundamentally dishonest. Thanks so much for staying with me. Please subscribe if you haven't already, share this video, and keep watching closely. Don't let anyone convince you this is unimportant. When someone in a position of immense privilege and duty engages in sustained deception of this magnitude, it is important. When institutions finally enforce accountability, it is important. And when the facts finally break through, despite every effort to bury them, that matters more than anything else. 1. Force fast.